Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a fresh new day of Code Garden. I'm happy to present Kek, also sometimes known as Christian, our very own head of cloud, who's here to give you the latest and greatest of Umbraco Cloud. Give it up.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for spending your early hours of today with me, talking about Umbraco Cloud. It's nice to see a turn up. This talk is also available online for free, so I don't know where the cameras are, but hello to everyone watching. It's nice that you also joined from the confinements of your own home or train or car, wherever you are. Prison, maybe? I don't know. Do you have internet in prison? Limited internet in prison? If you're in prison and you spend your limited time on the internet to be here with me today, then also thank you for that. That you want to spend that time on listening to me talk about Umbraco Cloud, because that's what I'm here to talk about. And Umbraco Cloud is a platform designed, built, maintained, and supported by Umbraco HQ with one purpose. And that purpose is to host your Umbraco solutions. And the vision for this platform has always been that we want to be the best place to host Umbraco. And we work towards that vision every day. Some of the things that we can do that no one else can do while building a platform for hosting Umbraco is that we work very closely together with the CMS group and the DXP group, Andy and Bjarke, so we have the insights to know what a platform would need. Some of the unique selling points that we have are faster time to market. We've seen this, we have experienced this, there's plenty of feedback on the platform that highlights this. We know that the best agencies that use Umbraco and work with Umbraco, the best of them, which is of course you, they spend 14% of their time building Umbraco, not building Umbraco. They are building infrastructure and managing all of that and upgrades, etc. But with Umbraco Cloud, you can spend that time on building better, delightful experiences for your customers because you can easier get to market with our platform. A couple of minutes, a couple of clicks, then you have a project up and running, and then you are ready to start developing your Umbraco project for your customers. Automatic upgrades. One thing is building something, another thing is maintaining something. That takes also a lot of time, can be annoying. Clients, customers do not want to pay you to upgrade the projects, security patches, etc. If you're on Umbraco Cloud, you don't have to worry about all of that because we upgrade your projects automatically with patches and minors. So let's say that you wake up, you get an email saying there's a security patch coming for Umbraco. Don't worry, you're on Umbraco Cloud, we'll roll it out to a project automatically. Lastly, there's easy deployments. We set them up out of the box. You create a Umbraco Cloud project. In there you can have several environments, and these environments, as soon as you spin them up, they're connected to the other environments so that you can deploy seemingly between them both code and content. And those are just some of the unique selling points we have, and we truly believe at Umbraco HQ that we want to be the best place to host Umbraco solutions. And not only at Umbraco HQ, but more specifically with these wonderful people here. This here constitutes what we call in Umbraco the Cloud Group. They go into work every day to make Umbraco Cloud a better place for you to work in. And they are divided into 5 teams, and I'd like to take you through the teams so you can see what they do and who they are. The first team is Cloud Feature Team, or as we call them, the Spanish Inquisition. Both José and Marina originate from Spain. José came in October and joined as a team lead. Marina, she actually started in SWAT, implementing the learning management system that we provide training on demand for you. Julia and Arton, they are 2 front-end developers. Christopher, I don't know what to say. He's just a really nice guy. I like him. He's our SQL expert on that team, and if you have any SQL questions, feel free to ask him. I know he loves them. And Rasmus, he's our practitioner. He is studying while joining the team. So half year with us, half year in school, back and forth until he's done next year. What they have been doing over the last year, a lot of things. I'm just going to highlight a few things. They have designed and built this new UI that you see in the portal if you've used it over the last few months. We updated the whole UI in the portal to make it more modern and more slick and better for you. We have used a UI library produced by Jacob and his team to build the components needed to update our UI. Another thing that we released together with this new UI was this project configuration change in progress screen that you can also see. meaning that before when you added an environment, you would just see a box saying adding environment, but now we actually show you what is going on underneath the hood, and we give you that control so you can see it. And this works for all users. So you start adding an environment, you go into the project, you'll be able to see this screen as well. And on the same time, we use this to lock down features that we don't want you to do while adding an environment. If you add an environment and then start renaming your project, the platform goes boom. So we've locked this down now, so it's not even possible to do that. So that's the cloud feature team. Next team we have is the cloud core team. And as I said, one of the strengths we have is that we work closely. We work in the next room than the CMS group works with. And this cloud core team refers to the CMS core. So every integration that we build in cloud that works together with the CMS, this team builds it. So that's deployments, it's upgrades, and other nice things. On the left, we have the brain behind the whole Umbraco Cloud platform, which is Martin. And then we have the nicest guy in the world, Mikkel and Jesper, the Madsen brothers. I think they answered 80% of all the questions I got in Cloud Corner yesterday, so it's nice to have them. And then lastly, we have Muslim. He's going to join in July. He came from support, and then he joined second level support, and now he's transitioned into one of the dev teams, which is a really nice journey for him, and also for us. We're really happy to have him on board. So as I said, they're working on everything that ties into the CMS. So they're responsible for the CI/CD flow. They're also responsible for this new feature that Philip mentioned yesterday with the backups, take backups of your database and restoring them as well. And they answered 80% of my questions yesterday. That was because that was in regards to CI/CD. So it's nice to see this also take off. Next up, we have the cloud platform team. And if you're clever, you can recognize Martin is also there, but yes, he's just that good. And then we have our wonderful demo master, Dan. You saw him demo the flexible environments yesterday at the keynote, maybe. And then we have another British, Jamie, currently on paternity leave. And then Özge has joined, or will join over summer. She just finished her master's in software engineering. She's been with us for a long time now as a student helper, and we're really happy that we can continue the collaboration into the future as well. And then our apprentice, Kenny, who actually started on a feature team, but found the interest in working closer with Azure and then transformed to the platform team. So what are they doing? They're doing the double project history, okay. Where it's a new feature that we launched where you can sort of see all the actions that have happened to your project. So upgrades, adding environments, deployments, etc. And you can see how they went. And if something went wrong, you can click on it and get more info on what to do about it. And then they also produced the data for this wonderful dashboard that we show you now, where you can sort of follow along on different metrics. You can see the impact that your deployments, etc. have had on your project's performance, CPU usage, and requests. Next up, we have the Cloud SRE team. SRE is a term coined by Google. It means Site Reliability Engineering. And if you want to know more about that, ask them. But what they do is keeping up with the underlying infrastructure that we use to make sure that what the new features they provide is handled and figured out, and how can we utilize that for your projects and ourselves. So left off is Mikolas. He did the demo of the sustainability dashboard yesterday. And then we have the only addition from our wonderful office in Vietnam, Wu. And then Haldor, our Icelandic Viking. Apparently you get that haircut if you participate in a mud football world championship twice. Not once, but twice. His words. So what they have done, a lot of things, but a lot of things you don't necessarily see. But one of the main things they've been doing lately is they've implemented HTTP 3 for all of the host names that is attached to Umbraco Cloud, your host names. And this is what I mean with that they look at what comes up, what technology changes in the underlying infrastructure, and then they apply them to your projects again, so that you don't have to worry about this when these things changes for you as well. And lastly, I would like to mention the hardcore team. They also work in the cloud group. They build hardcore. They consist of Jordan, a New Zealander that we flew in a year ago. I might have stood here last year and told you to go talk with him because he didn't know anything. I might have said that, but I can guarantee you that this year he knows so much more about everything hardcore. Then we have Mads. Mads did a nice lightning talk yesterday about how he got into GraphQL. And then talking about GraphQL, there's Rasmus, our GraphQL prodigy. He's been with us for 6 years, I think, who built the whole GraphQL implementation on hardcore. And it's so wonderful for me to be here today to actually say that a lot of things have happened for hardcore. It's a lot better product. So first off, we are seeing a big influx in enterprise customers on hardcore. And we're not doing that much marketing for it. So we see people that reach out to us and say, hey, look, we've compared you to some of your competitors, bigger players, and we found that we want to use hardcore. So we have added a few really big customers to the platform, which is nice for us, but it's also nice for everyone else using this platform, because that made us look at the performance of the content delivery platform that Hardcore provides. And one thing that we started to look at, say we need to update the performance of this. So the team has been working really hard. You can see some numbers here that on the response times of the GraphQL queries. In February, mean was 110 milliseconds. In June, this was 64 milliseconds. In February, the 99% of responses was returned within 1 second. In June, it was 99% returned within 310 milliseconds. So that's a huge improvement. Furthermore, they've added more features to the product. They have added the block grid editor. So a lot of good things coming for Hardcore, have been coming for Hardcore, and a lot of good things is on the way, which I'll present later. So that was the teams working on Umbraco Cloud. Then, who am I? I am Kek, also known sometimes as Christian, which is my given name, but Christian is a popular name in Denmark, so we had 4 Christians in the company at the time, and then I just turned into Kek, so I sort of adopted that. My World of Warcraft restoration shaman is also named Kek now, so I've really taken it deep into my personality. What do? I have 2 roles, or 2 job functions in this title that I have. One is people management. All the wonderful people I just presented to you, it's my job to make sure that they are happy and glad to come into work, that they have the best work conditions that we can possibly provide for them to do what they're really good at, building Umbraco Cloud a better place for you. And lastly, my second responsibility is working with the product, so setting the vision for Umbraco Cloud. Where are we in 3 years? What are we working on right now, and what are we working on next? And that's good for you to know, to leverage, because if you have any requests for Umbraco Cloud, then you know who to talk to, me, because I have direct access to the developers and have direct access to the backlogs and the prioritization. And also I'm a lot more easy to persuade than the others. So if you have anything, it's me that you want to talk to. I've been in this role for a little over 2 years. 2 years ago, I also presented at CodeGarden. I did a slideshow, I prepared, I practiced, and I did a slideshow and a presentation for hopefully some of you. And the only picture I could find of myself from that time was this, me reading the bingo rules wrong. So, but I was here doing the same presentation 2 years ago. And back then, I had this slide with me as well. And what it is you. And that was because I came with the open arms and the intention to hear what you think about Umbraco Cloud and what you think that we should do with it. And my graphical skills has definitely not improved over the last 2 years, I can guarantee you that. But one thing that have improved is Umbraco Cloud. And we see this on every measurable parameter that we have. We see more projects being created on cloud. We see the projects are a lot more complex as well. And we see our RNPS score go up. So every parameter we have points only in one direction, that Umbraco Cloud is getting better. And I think that part of that was because we started to pull you in closer. We simply changed the way we thought about how to build Umbraco Cloud. Previously, it was just us saying, hey, this could be nice to build. This is a nice technology. Then we'd get into the basement and started doing a lot of code, release it, and then you were like, meh. So that was waste of time. So we wanted to switch how we thought about product work. And we did that. And we didn't know it back then exactly what we were doing or how we would do it. But over the last 2 years, we've sort of concatenated it down to this sentence that Philip mentioned at the keynote as well: build how you want to build with Umbraco Cloud. And that's the vision that we have. That's how we believe that we can make it the best place to host Umbraco. So 2 years ago, I stood here, I threw out 10, 12 features of various sorts and kinds, different places of the platform, and then I decided to say, what comes back? Which features were you most interested in talking with us about? And then I went to Sweden, I went to US, I went to UK and the Netherlands and other places in Denmark and did the same. And the answers were very clear. It was the same 3 things that you came back with first that you needed. So we named them the big 3. It is CI/CD, flexible environments, and load balancing. I'll start with CI/CD. So one of the friction points that you had with Umbraco Cloud was that it was a locked environment. You could have 3 environments, and underneath those there were Git. And if you needed to work with the code, you could clone it down, start working, and then push the code back up. This worked nice for rather simpler projects. It worked nice where you don't need to have all your developers working on the project at the same time. But as soon as the project grew in complexity, you also needed to add more people, even more teams. And then this idea of cloning down and pushing directly to the development environment was not fit for you. You needed to have your code outside of Umbraco Cloud in order to do what you needed to do to build how you wanted to build. Build pipelines, run unit tests, do pull requests, etc., regular developer things. So what we did, we built this feature called CI/CD, which allows you to have your code outside of Umbraco, do what you need to do with it, and as soon as you're ready, you can push it back into the cloud. And the feedback, that was by far the most requested feature of all the things we threw out 2 years ago. And the feedback we've gotten has been so overwhelmingly positive that we are absolutely certain that we're doing the right things now, which is really, really nice. Here's a few quotes. Our cloud projects can now use the same standard approach as all our other projects. And one more. CI/CD was a missing link in allowing us to build how we want to build with Umbraco Cloud. You would almost think that I made her write that, but I didn't. She wrote this herself. So both of them is, now we can better build how we want to build with Umbraco Cloud, which is the vision. So that's really nice. Flexible environments. You saw a demo of it, how it works yesterday. I'm just going to take you through a little of the thoughts and how it's going to start with working. So Umbraco have always been this locked box. I said 3 environments, development, staging, live. You can push your document and code and templates and scripts from left to right, and you can pull your content between the environments. Again, this worked okay, but we found out that you are really, really good at selling extra features for your projects. So one thing is selling the website, then adding features. There were some friction points for you, because if it was a bigger features, you would need to put rail guards or feature flags or whatever hacking code into the features to ensure that the Q&A could access them, but real-life users couldn't. So the first iteration of flexible environments will be the possibility for you to add a feature environment on top of your development environment. So if you have a big feature you need to work on for your customers, you can put it on this environment. You can sync with the development environment as much as you want. And once it's ready, once you have your QA testing, once you have your customers trying out, seeing it works exactly how, like you wanted, that they wanted to work, you can fold it back into development and then push it to live. This feature environment is completely the same as the other environments, meaning that you can lock it down for public access. It has a database, it has a key vault, it has storage, it has everything you need to run the website, so it's exactly the same. The vision is the demo that you saw yesterday, that you can have as many feature environments as you want and as many horizontal environments as you want. We heard people requesting up to 6 horizontal environments, so why not? And furthermore, as you saw, we give you the possibility to rename them, because as soon as you get more environments, you need to know which environment is which. So that just makes sense to us. The last of the big 3 is load balancing. Load balancing looks a little bit like this. So you have a publisher, which is the one computer, and it publishes the content that you make, and then there are some subscribers, that is other websites that then subscribes to this content, and then there's something in front that directs the traffic to whichever machine has most availability, or maybe even specified by origin of a request. And we haven't looked that much into it yet. The feedback we've gotten and what we sort of plan to look at right now is something like this. So the automatic scale out, so you allow us to scale out your website when needed. You get a lot of traffic, we scale out, and once the traffic has died down, we scale back in. Secondly, we heard the request that some of you just want 4 websites of the same website running at the same time to ensure uptime, but also to handle the load, because you simply have a lot of it. So give you the opportunity to say, I want X amount of instances of this website running. We spin everything up for you. We direct the traffic, so you don't have to do anything. And lastly, while you have these 4 websites, you want to be able to utilize them on the regions that we have available in Umbraco Cloud. We're currently available in Australia, UK, EU, and the US. So in case that one of these data centers are struck by lightning, a meteor, lava, I don't know, then it dies, but you have load balanced your site to other regions, so your site stays up. And this is a requirement that you have brought to us from your end clients. So this is definitely something that we need to look into eventually. So those were sort of the big three that we got from the last 2 years. So what's next? And what I'm going to say now is pretty much the same as I did 2 years ago. This is what is next. There's only one of these that we actually have planned to start on. I'll let you know what it is. But the rest of them is just me throwing out ideas and then seeing what comes back. We released a dedicated compute feature a couple of years ago so that you can put your website on a dedicated server. That was nice. You were happy about it. And the good thing about releasing features is there comes a lot of feedback back to us. So you were like, this is really good. Can we do it for a database as well? And we're like, let's look at it, at least. And then when we talk about these dedicated features, they are currently only on a project level, meaning they can buy dedicated for a project. If we had the database dedicated, you can buy that for the project as well. But why not allow you as agencies to utilize the infrastructure that we can supply for you how you want to? So instead of you buying dedicated for your project, you buy it for your agency or your company or organization, and then you choose which environments to put on these dedicated resources that you purchase in Umbraco Cloud. And that's just for the dedicated. I'm sure there's tons of other organization features that is missing. One of them is something that we're going to start working on in Q3. That's bring your own AD. So managing users is always annoying. Managing users twice is 3 times as annoying. We know that you told us that, your clients tell you that, so you tell us that. And we want to make that a lot easier for both you as agencies, but also for your end clients. So instead of you having to use our user system, you can just bring your own AD for yourself and your clients if that is a requirement for them. This thing is something that we're going to start working on in Q3. Then I have this fluffy improved deployments. We have it, I think we have it actually as an epic in our backlog, improved deployments. The Cloud Core team is freelancing a little bit, looking into the stats, looking into the data to see where can we improve them, how can we improve them. So suggestions are highly welcome. We just know that we want to make them better. And speaking about deployments, some of you have noticed that when you deploy, you get a little bit of downtime depending on how fast your site boots up. And we want to remove that downtime as well. Again, we don't have any tech plans for this. We don't have any ideas yet on how to do it. We just know it's something that we get a lot from you, and it's something that we would really like to do. And then, as Philip mentioned yesterday, we have added this feature of, and I also mentioned, of exporting your database. We are currently working on the part of importing the database back again so that you can export it, put it in your garden, pull it up, and then put it back into your cloud project. We want to extend this to not only contain the database, but also the website, and also the content, and also the media, so you can pull out a complete backup of your website and then put it in your garden or a bunker or whatever you want. And then I actually added this slide this morning because both Philip mentioned it, I mentioned at the Business Summit that we would really like your input still. And yesterday, I was in the Cloud Corner talking to some of you, or some of you that is not here, and all of you actually mentioned this, or many of you mentioned this as something that you were starting to look into, the possibility to host your front end together with the backend in Umbraco Cloud. I suspect Umbraco 13 and 14 has been starting to push this a little bit up because now you have the APIs out of the box in Umbraco, and then you can use whatever you want as a front end, but you want to bundle it together in cloud. So I added this. Let's see what comes back. I'm very excited about it. We have talked about it before. It's just very, very difficult. If you've worked with front end, then you know that there are tens of millions of packages and random stuff in various versions, and they need to be installed on the server, and we have shared environments of 3 different websites install different versions of Node.js, whatever. Things just explode. So that's sort of where we left off with it, but it's definitely something that we are interested in taking back up and looking into. As I promised, there's also next for hardcore, which is probably the first time I can say that confidently, which is really, really nice. As I said, the team is starting to synergize very well and produce a lot of good stuff. So what's coming is for GraphQL, something we call persistent graph queries. So instead of you building your queries in your front end, you build it in the back office. You can see there's a new little GraphQL menu item. And then you call it something, and then we make it to a hash that you can see underneath the name. And then you give the hash to the query rather than the actual query. And this is good for many reasons. Of course, one of them is less data being sent to us, but we're going to extend this feature so that you can shut down the REST API query so that you cannot do REST calls to your data. That's one thing. And the next thing is then we're going to shut down other GraphQL queries as well. So you only work with these persistent queries, giving you all the control inside the back office of the queries allowed to your website, meaning that both you can control which users have access to which content, you can control which language should be returned, but also if you shut down the other possibilities, then no one else can start querying your website if they found the key or something like that, unless they actually have the hash. So it also makes it more secure. And another feature for Hardcore is something that we call configuration management. Hardcore is fully SaaS, it's a locked box, but we know there's a lot of features in the CMS that you have specifically requested to have access to. So we're going to start looking at that slowly to unlock them with some configuration variables in the back office as well. And the first thing that we're looking into is the possibility to bring your own SMTP because you want to send emails from your own providers, which makes sense. Oh, that's a lot. And we still have a lot to go through. Should we, can you stand up? Stand up. Just shake your body a little, stretch out. It's early in the morning. Get some air, take some deep breaths, and then get ready for round 2. It's good? Nice. Just gonna grab some water. You feel free to sit down again. You can come back now, Martin. All right. All right. So there's a lot of good stuff has been built already, a lot of good stuff in the pipeline. And one of the topics here is, we allow you to do more things, which opens up the platform. It's not a term that we have discussed that much or talked too much about, but giving you more control, also give you more possibilities to blow things up. And that is actually what we have seen, especially with the opening up CI/CD, with the restore, export, restore database feature. Export a V8 database and you put it into a V13 project, doesn't work. That means that things blow up. Oftentimes, sometimes, you can't fix it yourself, so reach out to support. So us opening up our own platform has actually increased our support, not only by number of tickets, but also by the sheer complexity of these tickets, which makes it harder for us to fix. And that doesn't mean we're going to stop there. It just means that this is a new way of thinking for us and something that we have to adapt to. Support is not new for us. We're actually quite good at it. You have probably talked with SWAT, many of you, given them some good feedback according to the numbers, so that's nice. But between SWAT and the cloud teams sits a different team that I just want to mention because they are actually doing one hell of a job to help you get started with some of the new, more open features that we're introducing. So we have this second level support team. Maybe you've seen some of them, maybe you've talked to them. Mostly you'll probably talk to SWAT. So I just wanted you to know that there's other people there ready to help you if you need. First off is Tony. Tony has tons of experience from the agency world. He joined us 3-4 years ago, I think, leading this team. And then the rest of them is people that came from SWAT and were really good, so we pulled them up to the second level support to do the more complex cases. And that's André. He just became a father, so congratulations. Eric, one of the 2 people on the slides that's been on Umbraco longer than me, and then our Hawaiian shirt friend, Jacob. You'll most likely see him wearing a Hawaiian shirt. He has a thing for that. So I just wanted to mention them because they're really, really doing a good job of helping you, which also helps us because that gives us less time help doing support work and more time for us to improve the platform. And one thing that has actually happened this year, last year, is that we have established such a core group of people and a lot of people on the cloud group compared to what we used to have, and that has allowed us to start becoming more proactive as an organization, as a product. And when I say proactive, I mean reacting before it becomes an issue on your behalf. So there are things we simply cannot stop. Things are changing, the world is changing. 5 years ago it was GDPR, right now it's AI. Everyone, what do we do with that? There's also a huge other topic that is highly focused on right now, which is sustainability. And we saw this a year ago. We also talked about it a year ago. And then we started working on it some months ago, 8 months ago or something like that. And the thing about sustainability is that no one really knows what to do about it. There's no frameworks, there's no silver bullets, there's no built-in functionality that can deliver exactly what you need. And you are going to need it. We see legislation start asking for this. You need to put your CO2 emissions, etc., into your financial reportings yearly. So this is a requirement, not only for you, but also for your customers. And the idea with us being able to be proactive and building Umbraco Cloud as a platform from you is that when these things happen, you don't have to worry about it because we worry about it. We take care of this for you, and we provide you with what you need. So we've built this sustainability dashboard, and this was the SRE team. You saw Mikolas demo it yesterday, where you can see all your projects, and then you can see the plan, and then you can see the amount of CO2 emissions they have, or the weight of the CO2 emissions that we've done this month, and then the total of this year. It's going to be released end of month, 1st of July, so this year is probably going to be close to zero because we're first starting to grab a hold of the data. But I promised on Tuesday that I would show you how we do this. As I said, there's no silver lining, there's no frameworks, there's no, Azure does not have, hey, this is what you do. So we had to figure this out ourselves. And we're not standing here saying that we have the right solution or the best way to do it. I'm just standing here and saying we have a way to do it, and we're documenting that with full transparency and full openness so that you can come to us and say, the worst you could say is that we are wrong, rather than we are trying to do something that we're not capable of. And if you come to us and say that, that would be nice, because then we can improve. You can get some numbers, you can get total numbers, you can go to a website and click how much does Umbraco.com emit on every page visit, but there's no real documentation or idea on what that is. Like if you want to know what one page view emits, you need to know which device people are on, you need to know the connection, you need to know what country they're in, because power comes from different sources, etc. So there's no real thing, but we were quite ambitious with this. We didn't want to provide you with an average, right? We host thousands of websites in Umbraco Cloud. So, and some of them are quite simple with a little page views per month, and some of them are quite complex with heavy loads and many visitors each month. They do not utilize or emit the same CO2. So if we gave you the same number, that number would practically be useless for you. So what we wanted to do was to differentiate on each project. And I'm going to go through the calculations now for you, so you can see them. They're going to be open on our documentation when we release the dashboard. And please come talk to me about it if you feel like something is off or not. I can tell you that we work closely together with two Azure, what are they called? Azure providers, Azure expert houses. We have had one of them go through our process and the tech on how we do this, and they gave us a thumbs up and said, yeah, that makes sense. And that's probably the best praise that you can get these days for something in terms of sustainability, again, because no one actually knows what to do. So first off, we needed something that could give us some numbers. And for that, we found an open source software called Cloud Carbon Footprint. Yeah, it's open source, so you can see the GitHub, you can contribute if you want. And one of the things they mentioned in their documentation is this: there's currently no guidelines for reporting Scope 3 emissions as part of greenhouse gas. What I just said, they also said it probably a lot smarter than me, but point stays the same. There's no real way of doing this. So they are also trying just to do something. So we'd start with their methodology on how they calculate CO2 emissions, and they do it by adding operational emissions plus embodied emissions. And the operational emissions is what does the compute actually cost? Because it doesn't cost the same in US East, where our data center is, as it does in EU. Not necessarily. The power may come from different sources as well. Some of it may be greener, some of it may not. And so there's a lot of parameters to take into consideration for these calculations. The embodied emissions is taking into account the fact that you need some production to have a server rack. There's metals and there's works and there's all kinds of fabrics in place in order to create these, and they have a lifetime, so eventually they need to be replaced and reused, etc. And that's what they call embodied emissions, the lifetime of the hardware that it's on. So this is the number that we get. Then we need to figure out how much your project uses. And your project is the sum of the websites, the environments that you have on your project. And we calculate that by taking the total CO2, And then we take the usage coefficient of your websites on compute level for now, and then we calculate those by timing them, times together. And each website CO2 emission is the usage, as I just said, times this, the cloud carbon footprint CO2 emissions that we have for the specific machine that this website is hosted on. So, simple example here. Let's say you have two websites that runs on a shared plan. We know from cloud carbon footprint that this plan emits 1 kilogram of CO2 for a given day. Then we have tracked in the background that website 1 utilizes 40% of the CPU time, and website 2 utilizes 60% of the CPU time. So we calculate this to say that of the 1 kilo, website 1 uses 40% of that, which is 0.4 kilograms, and website 2 emits 0.6 kilograms. That's the calculation that we make. Of course, this is a very simplified example because the numbers are unfortunately not that even. And that requires us to pull a lot of data every night on our website, CO2, CPU time and consume. But that's what we're doing, and that's what we have been checkmarked from our Azure suppliers or experts to say this makes sense, it's good. And this is just the beginning. Of course, this does not constitute all of your website's CO2 emissions. We need to expand on this in the future. This is just CPU time. You also have storage, you have databases, there's bandwidth, there's probably a lot of other things that we haven't considered yet that we need to take into calculations in this way that we calculate the emissions. Probably more. Again, I'm really happy if you could come and talk to me about this. If you have any ideas, thoughts, interests, concerns about this way of calculating sustainability. As we state, we're not saying we're doing the right thing, we're saying we're doing a thing and we're completely transparent about it so you can utilize this for whatever reporting needs that you have. If you want to come see me, I'm here right now. There's questions afterwards, but during the day we have a small thing called Cloud Corner. I'll be there a lot of the day. Hjalte, a nice guy, will also be there, and some of his teams will be there. It's easy to find. There's clouds, and it's in a corner, and it's next to that green wall where random hands pops out at various times, apparently. So please come talk to us. We really want to hear your input, not only on sustainability, but on everything. Because you, even though I don't have that ugly slide anymore, you still are our best source of information to figure out what to do with Umbraco Cloud. We need you if we want to enable you to build how you want to build. So we need your input to feed it back. And as I said, 2 years ago, I was here as well, did a talk roughly similar to this, other info, of course. Then I traveled a little bit around to do the same and saw what we got back. But this was sort of a sporadic way of us trying to get some input and feedback on what to do. And we wanted to make that a little more organized. And luckily in Umbraco, we have a very good history of utilizing our community. We have community teams, as Emma mentioned, and she also shared my big secret that I was happy to announce today, that we've established this cloud advisory board now, which I'm really happy about. We have had our first meeting. It was really good. It was at last Tuesday. One of the participants got up at 3 a.m. to join the meeting. We had some fantastic talks from some of them here at Code Garden as well. And last week we did 9 of the 12 people was part of UI UX test for flexible environments. So we're already utilizing this value to make sure that what we release is a lot better for you. The board consists of these 12 lovely people. We have Jen from Blue Motors, Paul from Mold Inspection Sciences, yes, that's the actual name, Robert from your IT group, Paul Seal from Clerkswell, Amalie from Know It Experience, Søren from Acreo, Alex Myers from Carbon 6 Digital, John Witter from Cantaris, hey John, Richard McCluskey from True Digital, Matt Bliss from Oriama, and Franz de Jong from WebWonders, and Annette from Toxic Solutions. So a wide variety of geography, and also in terms of roles. There are people here that doesn't touch code. There's also people here that does a lot of code. There's also people here that, at least they told me that they would like to do more code. So as a product lead, as I am, it's really hard for me to explain how appreciative I am of these people that they're willing to put in their work time to improve the product that you're all using, but also their free time. As I said, Paul Sterling got up at 3 a.m. to join the first meeting. So Paul is from US, Robert is from Australia. We need to find a middle somewhere in that. And he was happily getting up in the morning to join the meeting. So I really appreciate these people and appreciate the work that they put into it, along with the teams I also presented. I appreciate those people a lot, and I think we're all on the right path. That's what we see, that's the feedback we receive. As I said, Umbraco Cloud has become a lot better over the last 2 years, and I'm really keen to continue this journey with the teams and the advisory board, and of course you. So please come and speak with me or anyone else of the people I've presented. We would love to talk about Umbraco Cloud. And I hope it's okay that I didn't spend all your time, but that's all I have. So thank you very much for joining. Also to you online, hope you have a good rest of the day. So thank you.